Okay, we're going to start in a couple of minutes, everybody. I'll just get the door. Come on in. Uh, and we've got lots on the agenda today. Lots on the agenda. Excellent. So, what's that? Well, it might be, I often find as we move into the semester, the in-person part starts to dwindle because students have, a lot of work. And so actually, for those who come, it's even better because then everybody can contribute and the conversations get really um, involved, but it's very normal. We're now into week 6, and yeah, week 11, week 12. It's possible that one person will show up, but we'll see. Yeah, just because. Yeah, okay. Well, there are lots of, but it's set up, Vicky, for those options. In fact, I can tell you, I'll start with a little story. I think we can actually get going. Are we good? Yeah? Okay. Excellent. Well, you know what? I'll shut the final door just so we don't get any audio interference. It's just, um, I cannot tell you how gratifying it is and helpful to have Maureen with me and support this process of building the global classroom over many years at the college has involved a lot of convincing that I've had to do with senior management to ensure that there is tech support in place. And so I could tell you a lot about the struggle to build this inside a large institution. But I'll save that for another time. But it's just that there's a general belief among the management and academic institutions that professors should be able to manage all the technology themselves. And they're right if all you're supposed to do is a PowerPoint. But if you want to get ahead with tech in the classroom, you have to be more sophisticated. And it's complex, the technology. And fortunately, I have a lot of experience in production, in film and television production, because I was a producer, director, executive producer before I began teaching 15 years ago. So I understand the production process. But it's still, a bit of an uphill battle. It took probably 11 years for me to just convince the college to hire somebody part-time. And Actually, you're going to meet somebody later today who can tell you more about that. But anyways, welcome everybody to our Global Leader class on Wednesday mornings. And today is our 6th week. Next week will be our final class before the winter break. And so there is quite a bit of reviewing and quite a bit of sort of thinking ahead today that I want to do with you before we bring in the guest at 11 a.m. All right, that's the plan. So we're going to spend the first 45 minutes or so making sure that we can really understand what's coming in the classroom. We can talk about some important world events that are happening, and we can review as well the discussion posts as well as the first and second assignments. The second assignment is due next week. So we will get to that momentarily. I just want to make sure that I do the attendance with everybody so I can actually connect that to my spreadsheet to make sure that the in-person group always gets their proper marks. And that too has been a bit of a process for me is learning how to this semester make sure that everybody gets the proper mark for participation, even though there are 3 ways you can participate in the class. But I'm on top of it. It's not a problem. Okay, so let's make sure I know who's here. Of course, Daniel is here. This is more note to myself, but good to see Daniel. Sui Young is here. Vicky is here, and Ter- Carolyn, Kellyanne. Okay, Kellyanne is here. Excellent. Eventually, I hope you can sing for us, maybe. Not today, but Kellyanne was going to be involved in the Repair Cafe team, but she said to me, very early on, she would love to, but she has a choir that she sings in. Um, not a problem, okay? And I'll get to the Repair Cafe in a moment. And then would it be possible for the two of you to come into the couches just to be a little bit closer and I can get the names again and make sure I can remember. I have 200 students this semester, so it really helps me to see you more closely and I can remember. Your name again is Bipin, BIP. Have you been coming generally in person? Okay, good. So then I'll make sure your discussion post gets the proper mark. I was going to check with you. So Bipin and Nitish, Nitish. Okay. And I think you've been coming as well. Okay. So I'll make sure as well, if you've been doing just the question, that you'll get the 3 out of 3. Okay. And then it's Isa. Great. Nice to see you. Okay. And maybe we can talk after if there's anything you need to talk about. Okay. Uh, Great. So in terms of the cosmos today, we have Ariel is here, Fupeng, Jenny, Jose, Miguel, Nathan, Peta, Ryan, and Vidi. Excellent. Now, can I just say to the online cosmos right now, I'm noticing something starting to happen with the online group. I'm not saying that you are doing this, but I'm just going to put this out there for everybody, for the recordings and everything. I'm noticing that some students, they actually log in at the beginning of the class. They post a question in the first 5 minutes and they're gone. In other words, what they're doing is, and again, I'm not saying you're doing this, okay? It's kind of cheating in that you are trying to get the marks 3 out of 3. You want to appear as if you were participating in the class, but you're not. So I can't keep track of everything. If that's what you are doing, you're disappearing from the class after 5 or 10 minutes, you're going and posting a question, and then I'm giving you 2 out of 3 for that, 2 out of 3. Um, then, okay, you're getting your 2 out of 3 for 10 minutes of participation in a class. I can't track all of it, okay? In the long run, you're only cheating yourself. I would rather you say to me, shoot me an email and say, Lon, I really can't participate in the online classes at all. I'm going to stick to the recordings all the way through this semester. And then you'll have time. And I'll know that you're actually giving some real thought to what we're doing because you're watching the recordings and you're doing that full 175 to 200 word post, which is a question plus a reason. But I'm just noticing a few things happening now, and I just wanted to put everybody on notice themselves that I'm aware that some of you are starting to do this, and I'm making a mental note. And as we move into the semester, I have wiggle room at the end of the semester to give you the final grade that I think you deserve. And I'm allowed to do that with the course outline. So I have a certain amount of power here. And if I sense and then I can see in my spreadsheet that through this semester, this student has been getting participation marks by just dropping into the class for 5 or 10 minutes. I'm going to take a little bit of flesh out of you in your final grade for being, and this is a strong word I'm going to use, okay? But I just want to put this out there. Again, I'm not saying any of you are doing this, but that's sleazy. Now, from a leadership standpoint, if you had somebody come to you as a boss or a leader, or you started to hear through the grapevine from your team, but nobody came to you, that they think you as a leader are kind of sleazy, that's bad. You will lose the trust, you will lose the respect of the people who are with you. Guaranteed. And when it comes to leadership, your integrity is always on the line. Your word and your sense of responsibility is always on the line. If your team starts to lose trust in you and thinks that you're cutting corners, that you are trying to find shortcuts, I can tell you from experience, having been in a position of leadership as a television producer, executive producer, as a teacher, professor, you watch what happens to the respect that you struggled hard to earn of your team. It goes away. And once you lose the respect of the people around you, you can't lead. So, sleazy means you're trying to kind of cut corners, cheat a little bit, get away with things, and not be noticed. You can do that when you're a follower. You can't do that when you're a leader. You just So, Vicky, I just really want to make sure, and again, I'm saying to all of you in outer space right now, Ariel, Fuping, Jenny, all of you in the cosmos, if you are just dropping into the class and trying to get those easy participation marks, I'm not saying you're doing it, but just be aware that I'm noticing this is happening in all of my classes to some extent, okay? Yes.
I understand what you're saying, like how it can be disrespectful, but also with that having like that disrespect and that doing that kind of thing, but having that trust and gaining that trust back
Yeah.
is so much harder.
Yes.
It is like trying to gain that trust that you've already gained and then you've done something.
Yeah.
Sometimes you can't get it back.
Well, almost always you can't get it back.
It's really hard.
It's a great point, Vicky, and you're
It's
always on top of
yeah, it's
things.
once you have that trust gone
Yeah.
and it's burnt and it's gone, you can't.
You could talk to any CEO of a big corporation or a
It looks
minister in
bad.
government, and who's worked hard to build the public trust. Watch what happens when it's gone. Let me give you a tiny example, tiny example of this. Okay, it may not be the best example, and I'm not even sure it's true yet, but there's now doubt that's building about a person whom you all know. His name is Justin Bieber. Now, I'm sure all of you know who Justin Bieber is,
Yes.
right? He's a great singer. He comes from not far from here, Stratford in Ontario. He used to play music on YouTube when he was a teenager, and he was noticed eventually by another great Canadian musician, Drake, and the rest is history. Justin Bieber has been battling physical problems, which we should all be sympathetic to. But what's starting to come out now, but it's again, we don't know. We don't know yet. Okay? So but there's hints. How many of you are familiar with another musician named Puff Daddy? Okay? Sort of? Yeah? P. Diddy? Puff Daddy? Is it? P. Diddy? Puff Daddy? Same thing? Okay. Now, did I say it wrong? Puff Diddy. Okay. Okay. Are you aware of the whole other story that's happening with him now? Okay. There are a lot of men in power. Um, we there are so many examples I can't even tell you anymore, of who have abused their power. We're learning. Yeah, okay.
Fortunate.
P. Diddy is now in jail in New York, awaiting charges that he will have to defend. Multiple allegations of sexual abuse, child rape. I mean, I don't even want to go down that road with you today about how many other people have been doing this over the years.
There's also Drake Bell.
I could tell you about my heart being broken by Lance Armstrong once upon a time. Do you know who Lance Armstrong is or was? The great winner of the Tour de France cycling race, set all the world records, won the most difficult high endurance athletic event 7 times in France, and then denied that he was using performance enhancing drugs. Built up a great myth around himself, partly true, that he was a cancer survivor, which he was, and he started an organization called Livestrong. And for many years, people would buy yellow bracelets, Livestrong. Eventually, Lance Armstrong admitted not only was he taking a lot of drugs, but he was forcing his whole team to do it. And it was a big operation. We don't hear from Lance Armstrong anymore because he was a massive cheater. And his defense was, everybody's doing it, so why can't I? P. Diddy seems to be going down the same road now. I'm innocent. I will defend myself, and maybe he has a case. But it's very important that we recognize that Justin Bieber now seems to be ensnared in this because he may have been
Victimized.
groomed a little bit by P. Diddy. He was going to the parties, there was a lot of sex with kids, forced on them. I'm not saying it's true. But if it is true, Justin Bieber, if it's true, will never win the trust back, ever. Nor will P. Diddy ever win the trust back, too, if it's all true. So, again, I can't stress how important it is to know if it's true or not. It will be litigated. It will go to court. But we are living in the era right now where there is an American presidential candidate in the US, you're going to hear all about this soon, who has been convicted of a crime by a jury. And he's still running for president. So there's a tremendous amount of cynicism today around law. There's a tremendous amount of mistrust.
Professor Lon.
Start to trust. And that's where it all ends too. Vicky?
Is there a way that they could do DNA testing?
I don't know. What's going to happen?
It's been so long, so I mean, it might not even show a trace. I don't know. But technology's gotten a lot better, so it might be able to pick up something.
We will learn about this because the prosecution of this case now, the prosecutors themselves
So Justin Bieber has a kid on the way too.
What's that?
Justin Bieber has a kid on the way too. So I mean, how's his kid gonna? It's gonna reflect on the kid.
I don't know if anything is true, but the two of them were close. And I mean, it just so we can always have a discussion about who's telling the truth and who isn't. We can do that another time. Just please remember that trust is sacrosanct. You win it, That's incredible honor. You lose it, good luck winning it back. Okay, so I think
Professor
the
Lon.
point's probably made, unless there's anything you'd like to say at this point before we move on to some things that are a lot more positive today. But what a world
Um,
you
Professor
guys
Lon.
are all having to grapple with, and I hope I can do my little part as your professor in helping guide you a little bit and provide you with some insight into this difficult, ethically challenged world we're in. Is it making sense? Yeah, like you feel? Yeah. Okay.
Peta has a question.
Yeah, Petra, go. Are you able to jump on your microphone?
Yeah, I'm on my microphone. I don't know why you're not hearing me.
Let's see if it's working. Uh, if not, let's try. Mayrine's just going to work on that and see. Uh, Great, Petra. We see you. Let's see
Okay.
if we can hear you. Jenny, great. Let's
Can you hear
bring you
me?
in and see how we're doing with. Is it? Did you hit this? Sometimes it would be. Let's see. Try again. Petra, go ahead.
Okay, are you hearing me?
Yeah. Great. Yes. Go ahead.
Okay, so you are talking about people acting with integrity as far as showing up for your class. I show up for your class every week. I have one class on the Oshawa campus today, and I have three more on the Whitby campus. Now, we have to bear in mind that parking is $15. I don't want to come to Oshawa to pay that amount for one class and then have to go to the Whitby campus. I mean, every dollar adds up. It's not that I don't want to be at your class in person, but if I can save a buck, I'm going to save it. And I'm here actively performing. So you giving me 2 out of 3 when I am responding in your discussion post is somewhat disheartening, because we have to encourage people who still act in integrity, right?
Sure.
And
Sure.
that's a big part of what we need to keep understanding, that you have to be careful not to paint everybody with the same brush, right? It's easy to
For
do,
sure.
right? And we're
For
in a
sure.
society where it's very easy for one person to make a mistake and then we just group them. It's a practice that I'm noticing, you
It's a
know?
good point. It's
We walk a very fine line when we talk about people acting in integrity, and yet when you do, sometimes it's just overlooked because whatever the other masses are doing, you know.
It's a great point. And can I just address first? I just want to make sure that I was clear. In no
Hmm.
way was I suggesting that this was about your in-person attendance.
Hmm.
That's something else altogether.
Hmm.
So I'm talking about those who are coming into the class online, like yourself, live.
Hmm.
I've noticed that with some, they come for 5 or 10 minutes and then they're gone. You don't do that. Okay, so I just want to make sure we're talking about the same thing. Okay, because
Yeah.
there might be a bit of a misunderstanding about what you're reacting to. So
Okay.
that's what.
I don't want to interrupt Professor Lon, but because you say who is there in person, they get their participation marks. But if you're online, you have to write 100 and whatever words
No,
for
no,
in the
no.
discussion. So
That's
maybe I'm misinterpreting.
yeah, exactly. That's why
Okay.
it's it's funny. Often when we have um, some kind of disagreement or misunderstanding, we have
Hmm.
to get back to, well, what's the fact here? What are we talking about? Because
Okay.
sometimes people think we're talking about different things, and then it gets really bad. Okay, so first, let me just establish what we're talking about. I'm I'm not talking about the group here live. Okay, that
Mhm.
this group live in person, all they need to do is post a question at the end on the discussion post, and they receive 3 out of 3. But I know that these students are here the whole class because I can see them. And occasionally a student will come up to me before the class in person, Peta, and say, I have to leave early because of something. And I say, sure.
Mhm.
I'm talking about the students I can't see, which is, well, all the students online right now synchronously. Okay, so that's you. That's
Mhm.
everybody else who is online live synchronously. Then there's all the asynchronous students who are watching the recordings. This is not about them. Okay, so, but for those like you, Peta, you have two choices. You can post a question, like everybody here, and receive 2 out of 3.
Okay.
If you want 3 out of 3, you have to do what the asynchronous students are doing and write the reason for that question. Do you follow?
Okay. Okay. Thank you for clarifying.
Yeah, and so what I'm noticing, Peta, and I just want to make sure, because when it comes to disagreements with students, I've learned I have to really, really make sure we understand we're talking about the same fact, the same thing here. Otherwise, everybody can get very angry and even infuriated. I've noticed that in all 3 of my classes, Short History of the World, Humanities, Destiny, Global Leader, 200 students, of students who are coming in like yourself, I've noticed a bit of a pattern that some pop in at the beginning. All I see is a name in the circle, like the planet, and then I check halfway through the class again, and they're not there. And then I check at the end, and they're not there. And so I'm concluding the students are not really staying in the class very long, but yet when I go to see their post, they've posted a question, which means they automatically get 2 out of 3. Okay. Then I'm thinking, but they've only been in the class for a brief period of time. Do they even deserve that 2 out of 3? But I give it to them anyways. Peta, is that helping? You understand now what?
Oh yeah, I understand you. I'm Professor Lon. I'd never be upset with you. I ask questions because I like clarification. I'm sure other people in online probably have that same question, but I'm gonna ask because that's who I am.
Okay, so but we're clear on what we're talking about, and
yep,
okay,
crystal
good.
clear.
Okay, good. So who's next? Was it Jenny or another student who had a question from the outer space? Jenny? You're good? Okay. Okay, let's move on then. And
Can I say
unless
something?
there's any.
You
Yes,
can hear
go
me,
ahead.
right?
Who's
Okay, I just
that?
wanted to test if my mic worked because it wasn't working earlier, but I think it was a problem on your side, not my side, because
Okay.
we didn't hear Peta either. So thank you.
Nice to see you, Nathan. Yeah, no problem. Okay, so let's move on to the main content today, or at least the main content in terms of what's coming, because Cassandra's going to come at 11 a.m. So as always, I have to cut a few things because more happens and I've got to deal with those things. But I will always spend time making sure that everybody understands, okay? It's really important. Okay, who's next? Is there something online? No? Okay.
Hi, Professor. Hello, Professor.
Yes.
How are you? Hi, this is
Joy.
Joy. Yeah, from Dhaka. Yep. Hello, class. And
look who's popped in. He's welcome to stay briefly or
go
ahead.
I tried to join last week, but I had some family issues and then back home, so I couldn't join. And
no problem.
but somehow it was a great session with the Professor Aftab from Daffodil. We
Sure.
did some good reflection, and so I would like to share you that this week, Friday, I'm going to join on the Global Youth Climate Action Day.
Yes.
Hosted by Global Center on Adaptation.
Great. Go on.
So I will, but I will join online. I can move by physically. So they invite me on a and because their main intention to on this program to organize the COP29, and I believe this year COP29 is going to organize on the Azerbaijan.
Okay.
And most important is the country like Bangladesh, and especially the developing countries and underdeveloping countries, the climate and environmental consciousness is a big matter.
Absolutely.
So and last time I remember when you did the course on the leadership, the youth leadership. So
Yes.
it was we highly spoke on this topic, and we try to figure out how to manage the solution on the global adaptation. So um, I will uh, I will uh, I will share
Yes.
after the session. I will share the reflections, and we'll do how can we edit the values on the global class on this manner.
This is great. Ajay, can I stop you for a second so I
Mhm,
make sure
mhm,
everyone
mhm.
understands? This is great. I didn't know he was gonna. Um, do all of you know who Ajay is? I haven't. He hasn't yet appeared. Okay. Early on in the semester, not Aftab. Remember Aftab? Ajoy was his student. Ajoy is home now in Dhaka in Bangladesh. So he's coming from Bangladesh, and we'll leave. We'll bring him back. Okay. Yeah. Thanks, Maureen. And he has been a wonderful participant and long-time student and coordinator with the global class in Dhaka and Bangladesh, also bringing guests into the class. And um, there, there's a lot I could say about how important he has been in helping us to build the global classroom. And so Ajoy, could you just put what you just said in the live chat, or just summarize a little bit, and I'll make sure that we can get this properly brought up with all the students in terms of what you've just mentioned. But there have been many young people from around the world, young emerging leaders in other countries who've joined us here and there through the global class. But Ajoy is one who's really been committed to this, along with Aftab, whom you met. And as I've said about Bangladesh, this is a country that punches above its weight. It's a tiny, tiny country, but boy, it has some smart people there. So, Ajoy, please stay with us today if you can. We're going to
Yep.
move on.
I
And
would. I was curious to what topic you are talking about today, this class, because I joined late.
yes, well, we've been reviewing a little bit. I'm going to move on now and really get to the main part. Today, we're really talking about getting involved and making it happen. Getting involved in something and making something happen. A critical part of leadership um, is the ability to actually um, begin a project or begin an initiative, and you're the one responsible for making it happen. And there are about 7 key points that I want to get across to you today, and I will get to them a little bit later when our guest comes, because Cassandra White, who will join us at 11 a.m. Live in person, or she will be coming online. She'll be coming online. She can help you to understand something about getting involved. And I just want to make sure that I set something up that's really important that's coming in the global classroom tomorrow and next week. And then we'll come back and deal with getting involved and making it happen. Okay? Next week's guest here live is a film producer. And his full name is Shadi Dali. Shadi Dali produced a film that we're going to be screening here tomorrow afternoon called Peace by Chocolate. And you're looking on the dashboard now, silent, a trailer for that film. And I want to make sure that all of you understand something about what's sort of available for you. If you can come tomorrow afternoon to watch the film, you will be ready for next week's class where you will get to meet the filmmaker and talk about the film, which is an award-winning film. It's about a business that's well known now in Canada, which makes incredible chocolate. And they have a store in, I think it's Antigonish or Halifax in Nova Scotia, and it's a Syrian family. The story that has been written about as a book, made into a feature film called Piece by Chocolate, which we will screen tomorrow, and the producer you will meet next week, is about the journey that this family made, the Syrian family, from a country of war as refugees to Canada, where they had to adjust. Now, do you remember last week I spoke quite a bit about the grounded open mind? You remember that? And about the ability to adjust to new situations? I've already seen students writing about this in their discussion posts and their assignments, which is terrific. One of the critical skills of a global leader is the ability to adapt and adjust to a complex world. Well, this family, the Haddad family, has a remarkable story to tell about adjusting to a new world and then building a business and succeeding. Now, there are a lot of young people here, international students, who know this situation very well when you go from one culture to another. But actually, this is a universal story of mobility today. We touched on this last week, where Maureen and Mira presented the wonderful insight a little bit into the mobility district at World Expo. The ability to move around in the world and adjust anywhere and thrive and succeed and build a business in a new country with all the barriers and difficulties of learning a language and different culture. And this family did not come to a big city like Toronto or Ottawa or Vancouver or Montreal. They went to a smaller part of the country, very remote in some ways. And they found a way. Incredibly. How did they do it? That's what we're going to be exploring starting tomorrow with them. In terms of the story, we're just going to screen the film here from 3 to 5 p.m. There's an announcement posted on DC Connect. And then next week, we're going to be having a class with Shadi, the producer. So I just want to make sure you're all aware of that that's what's coming. You may have some questions about that. Vicky does, of course. And then we're going to move on. We'll just leave this silent for now, okay? We don't need to run.
Is there a website of like the Piece by Chocolate, like of like their?
I'm going to let Maureen speak to it because it was Maureen's good idea. You've got the microphone for this, so go ahead.
So yes, there is a website of like the company Piece by Chocolate.
Okay.
And then obviously if you want to buy chocolates or kind of do catering, whatever, they do have a website that you can find. And then I think there's like a little link for like Tarek and like a story.
Nice. Okay. Thank you.
Good. So now somebody must have a question like, how am I going to come and watch the film tomorrow? Right? So, yes, right? Vicky, go ahead.
I will try my best.
Yep.
If I can come, I can't make any promises because I would take a bus in and think it's a 2.5-hour round trip.
Yep.
And then my next bus, if it ends at 5, I would have to catch the bus at like 6:30.
Do not worry.
So,
Do not worry,
but
okay?
she did tell me where I can find it.
Okay.
And I'll probably
Good.
watch it independently.
Yeah. So
I'll probably watch it then.
please understand, everybody online and everybody, I would never post something for you 24, 48 hours before the event and expect you to be here.
Yeah.
That would be unfair. I
It's just at the
posted
drop
it
of the hat.
What's that?
Essentially, you're putting it at the drop of the hat.
Yeah, I'm that's right. I'm only letting you know. Next week for the class, you're going to meet the person who produced this film.
That's wild.
And it's important that you are familiar with the film. But even if you don't watch the film and you can't, it's okay. But I highly recommend it because I think you're going to learn a lot. Okay? So, yes. Is it on Netflix? I'm not sure, but
I would have to check. I think it might be, but do you have the app Tubi? Have you heard of it? It's like you can watch free movies on there. It has it. They have it on there.
we will find a way. We will find a way to make sure that you have access to at least some of the film if you can't make it tomorrow. But this is sort of a campus-wide event too, so anybody will be coming tomorrow to watch it in here. Okay. So any questions online? You're good with that? Everybody understand? Then if you do, I'm going to just go through a few points, get you ready for our guest. And also, I'd like to talk a little bit about some other events that are coming in the global classroom that are important, particularly our class on the American election and democracy. Okay? So we're good. Let me know if there's anything. Okay? So I've written up for you this morning 7 key points that I'd like you to reflect on for the moment as we look at this whole idea of getting involved and making it happen. I'd like to go through these points with you because they're really helpful in terms of some very concrete insights into leadership and what you need to be able to do, the skills you need to be able to develop when we talk about global leadership. The term global leader is what this course is called. I think it's clear to you what the global part means. You need to be able to adapt to many diverse situations in your life. You will be traveling. The world, your world right now, is a lot bigger than just Oshawa or the country you've come from. It's a global world and it's a local world. So the global part is right in front of you. There's the map of the world. That's how you think today, the whole world. The question is leadership. And we've been touching on this periodically, but I want to give you some practical terms that are really important for understanding what leadership is. And I'm going to try today to do something a little bit different. Maureen, do you want to put the camera? I'm going to come over here, and I'm just going to sort of teach from here for a moment, okay? Just because I'm always trying to bring back the blackboard or the whiteboard a little bit, but everybody here can see what's on the wall. You can also look at it here, but I just want to summarize very quickly what these 7 points mean, okay? So we talk about, and let me stand, get the right position, okay? We talk about vision. The person who leads is the person with the imagination, with the idea. When you are beginning a project, somebody has to have the vision of what this is, what the purpose of the project is, where you hope to end up, why you're doing it. That's called a vision. It's the big idea and the big reason for why you are doing this. Whether you are running a company, whether you are running a smaller initiative, somebody needs to have the vision for what this is all about. That's the leader. And that's imagination, because vision is always about thinking ahead. It's always about thinking about what's coming. A good leader, it's often said, is always 2 to 3 beats ahead of everybody else on his team or her team. Okay, so you need to understand what vision is. You need to understand how to motivate others. It may be difficult for you to motivate yourself sometimes when things are so complicated and difficult. But you need to start thinking about how do you get others to do what your vision is imagining. You have an idea of what you want. It's one thing to do it just all by yourself, but when you have 5 people, 10 people, 15, or a bigger team, they need to understand why, and they need to be motivated, and you need to be able to do that. How are you going to motivate them? Your organizational skills are going to become really, really important. And you want to bring this back to me, and I'll try and do it from here, okay? I'm sort of experimenting a little bit with how I'm gonna do this, but I like to see everybody here. So you look at agendas and you look at timetables. If you have difficulty organizing yourself, you're probably not ready to really lead, because there are deadlines. It's not just due dates. There are things that you need to achieve with your team all the time, and those deadlines and those responsibilities have to be met. It's like a domino. One thing gets done, it pushes the other thing, and gradually the vision gets executed and the project gets done. So all of these dates have to be set in a schedule. Responsibilities have to be listed out in a checklist. You're responsible for that. It may be that somebody else is actually on your team doing that checklist. It may be that somebody's organizing the schedule, but you're the one. You're the one who is responsible for everything. And if you're not ready for that, then start thinking about how you can get ready for that. And I will give you one little bit of advice from experience over, boy, I'm going to be 62 in December. I started as a young television reporter at City TV when I was 16 years old. So I was working professionally from a very young age. And then I was getting my education on the side. So I understand what it takes. Do you know what the secret word is? You have to care more than anybody else. If you care about that vision, you care about making it happen, you will learn everything you need to learn. If you love your idea and you really believe in it and you care, you will be the one who can do the heavy lifting when it needs to get done. You will not be afraid of the responsibility because you care the most. What I've noticed with students, and even with people who've worked for me, people I've worked for, is there comes a point when you start to learn with the people around you who really cares. And the reason why they may not care could because they have many other more important things to do, and that's fair. But sometimes I've had people working for me, and I'm paying them, and I start to see that they don't really care. I really don't want to work with a person like that. They have to care. And if they care, I will care more. So you have to be the one, as the leader, who cares the most. And then you can get organized. You will learn everything you do. So you need to constantly do the gut check with yourself. When you are undertaking a project or you are leading a group of people, when you wake up in the morning and if you realize I'm not caring about this anymore, it may be the time for you to step aside for somebody else to lead. Does this make sense? Are you sure? Caring. Okay, please make sure. Finally, I'll just mention a couple of other things because I wrote these 7 things down today and I thought they would really capture in a very simple, clear way what I mean by leadership. You have to be able to know where the good resources are. That's the research part. That's Madison helping you with information, knowing where to go to get the best resources. You have to be able to follow through on something. So if you say at the beginning, you're going to do it to your team, and then gradually over time, you're starting to kind of back away, you're hedging a little
Yeah,
bit.
Professor.
Sure, that's not follow through. That's not follow through. You're backing away. That's fine if you're a follower. A
Hello,
follower
Professor.
backs away, but a leader follows through from beginning to end. The leader is the person who's there from the start to the finish.
Yes, Professor.
Finally, Oh, Ajoy, just a second. Finally, I just want to say one thing, okay? And then we'll go to Ajoy. This is the weirdest part, point number 7. Anybody who's in a real position of leadership starts to learn that they feel kind of alone. Because they're the one who cares the most, because they're the one who've worked the hardest, because they're the one who sees ahead and is 2 or 3 beats ahead, they always feel a bit apart from their team. And they feel kind of alone. And the leader wants to be one of the guys, to just let his guard down, to just go out and have a beer with all the guys and be one of everybody. And you can do that. Absolutely. You can have fun with your team. But at the end of the day, you're the one who's responsible when something goes wrong. You're the one responsible if there's a conflict that needs to be managed. You're the one responsible if the revenues of that company are not being met or anything is not being achieved. And so you have to be the one that's sort of just a little apart from everybody else, and you're alone. Make sure when you lead something, you have support. Whether it's a friend you can talk to, whether it's a wife or a husband or others, but manage what's called the loneliness at the top. You're going to need support for that. Do not, final thing, do not lean on your team for support. You will lose their respect. Imagine me as your professor. If I came to you today, Kellyanne, and I said, Kellyanne, I'm so stressed today. I don't know what I'm going to do in the classroom. I've got all these students and I'm really afraid of walking into the class. And could you help me out and give me some ideas on what to do? Could you help me teach today? Now, Kellyanne may step in and do a great job, but I guarantee you, the next time Kellyanne looks at me, the respect for me has gone down a notch or two. That's a leader. Find your support elsewhere. Don't lean on your team. Deal with the fact that you are the one apart. It's an honor to lead. But be prepared. It can be lonely. Okay? So these are 7 very practical points that I wanted to give you about just leadership. I'm going to stop for a second. You can call this a little mini lecture, which is what I like to do sometimes in these classes. Just a quick lecture for you on critical things. And I want to make sure Cassandra, she's in the class, so we're going to come to Cassandra in a moment. But first, Ajoy, I know you had something you wanted to add. Please go ahead. From Dhaka at, what time is it in Dhaka right now, Ajoy?
Well, it's 9 p.m. 9 p.m.
Not too bad.
Sharp.
Thought it might be later. Go ahead.
Well, um, as far I was watching your lecture on these 7 crucial points on the leadership and development for the youth. So, I was thinking because I think the very suitable and very essential person according to this subject, it should be the Toria CEO, the CEO
Yeah.
of Toria. That
Sure.
guy, because
Yep.
he's exactly doing a venture, a idea, and he initiated that he is running with, and it's a very, he's after COVID-19 is very, it became very competitive, this virtual site like the Zoom, like this Toria, like Max,
Yes.
this that, and from different side, from Singapore, India, and the different venture they're coming in the industry. So uh, I was thinking to let's, I mean,
We're working on that. The CEO, Ajoy is mentioning something that I was hoping we could get, and I'm working on it. Toria is the video conferencing system we use. It's a Canadian conferencing platform, highly secure with some very interesting tech. And I was hoping we could have the CEO as a guest to explain how he built this company. We're still working on that, okay? But
can
we
listen.
will have him as a guest eventually.
We can listen. We can listen the real time. These 7 parts, the real time solution, or the real time experience from him. And
Absolutely.
secondly, I write this programs on the live chat. You may have give me the reflection, or and if you have any things in my mind, please share me.
Sure. Thank you. Yeah, that's great. And we'll save that. He's done a good little write up there of what he had said. Okay. Unless there are any questions about what I just said, I want to move on to introduce you to someone very special too, kind of like Ajoy, in terms of her sort of intelligence and initiative, and as what I would call an emerging young global leader. Okay, but everybody good? Yep. And online, Maureen will let me know. Okay. Hello, Cassandra.
Good morning, Lon. How are you doing?
Great. Excellent. I would like to just do a very brief introduction of Cassandra White, who knows this room very well, and just tell you that first, she's going to be speaking about something today that she knows very, very well, and it's called gaming and gamification. One of the important tools of global leadership today is, as you know, using technology really well in sophisticated ways. And Cassandra is a gamer and understands not just the tech, but all the stuff behind it in terms of storylines, the culture, and can speak to this industry as well as how it might apply to leadership in the way that gaming can be used for visualization and other um, um, resources. But here's what she didn't know I was going to talk about, and I want to just make sure she's clear. Okay. Cassandra was originally going to be the person in the global classroom who was going to be running this whole classroom. She was my first choice a long time ago, before I barely knew Maureen. But the college had committed to hiring her and then backed out. Cassandra being Cassandra, she makes things happen. First of all, she got involved in the global classroom as a student here and volunteered. Through her volunteering, she contributed a lot to the global classroom. As a matter of fact, these cards that you see right now that I write on, one day I walked in here and lo and behold, she'd put the GC in the lower left-hand corner, global classroom. She was always taking initiative, very creative, in the way that Maureen has done too, in the way she takes initiative and is highly creative. Cassandra is a great example of somebody who gets involved when she is interested in something. And then when she gets involved, she makes stuff happen. She leads. So when I had to break the news to her after a year of her waiting and volunteering for the contract that never came, because the college decided it didn't have the money in the end, Cassandra did something very clever, which I love. She doesn't know exactly what I'm about to say, but she doesn't know how I viewed this, but I'm going to tell her right now. She didn't get angry. She waited a year. I said, I'm going to keep trying and trying to get you the contract. It looks like it. I would never tell her something that wasn't true, but eventually it looked true. And she was meeting with the management here and everything. And then suddenly it was like the money disappeared. So what did she do? She found another job at Durham College. She went and got herself hired at Durham College somewhere else. What she didn't do, maybe she did it privately. Cassandra, maybe you did. She might have been upset. She might have been angry. Okay. But then she went and she made her job happen somewhere else. That is total leadership. When you get a setback, when things happen to you that you don't like, are you going to blame others for your situation? She could have blamed me. She could have blamed the college. She could have walked away from the college and said, this place is Bush League, this college. They promised things, money. Nope. She just went and got interviewed somewhere else and got hired. I love that. I think that is an example of great leadership. So it's no surprise to me that Cassandra now is rising in her department where she's working. She can speak to that. But Cassandra, please come in and make sure I'm telling things accurately. And then could you speak to the volunteering, how you got hired, and then ultimately we'll have a little bit of time for how gaming might be used as a technique for visualization and for planning as a leader. Please go ahead.
Sure. So first off, I want to apologize if I sound a little stuffy or coughing. I am actually recovering from a cold, so I'm working from home today. I think this is the first day I've felt like a human in about a week. Uh, so I may be coughing a bit during my talk. So yeah, what Lon was saying, I definitely did get angry. I definitely was upset. I think it's really important to let yourself kind of feel those feelings to then move on. What ended up happening was I did have a contract for part-time work at the college, and when COVID hit, the global classroom being remote, we innovated, we pivoted, we changed what we were doing, we kind of reset, and us and Lon and me and a lovely gentleman from the AV, Stuart, worked really hard to keep everything going through COVID. And then about 3/4 of the way through, when we thought we were all done with layoffs, they eliminated the position that I'd had, which was really unfortunate. I actually had a meeting that afternoon with a team working on a massively important event. And I was told I was being let go about 45 minutes before that meeting. And I still had to attend the meeting and try and get everything going. So got through the meeting, felt my feelings, got everything in order.
Yep.
Got everything in order. And then when I ended up coming back to the college, I was on the callback list from COVID. And I came in on a temporary contract into the professional and part-time learning department. It used to be known as continuing education. And that temporary contract turned into interviewing for a full-time contract, turned into a temporary position as the admin coordinator, which turned into a part-time position as the program officer. So essentially, I went from a temporary contract to a team lead, and the amount of time that I've kind of been with that department, which has been a couple of years, I would say. So now my job is essentially, I have my own set of duties, but it's also my entire team, and kind of be a person between them and the manager for when there's questions that need to be answered, or any kind of process updates, anything like that. So a lot of the time, my manager will give me a project and say, hey, how can we make this better? How can we make this easier? How can we streamline this? And that's my job, is to kind of set up the new process for the team and then teach everybody how it works.
I'm writing down team lead or team leader, okay? Now, the other thing that I'm going to point out as we move on today, all right, hold your question a second, okay? Just 2 seconds. Yeah, I just want to make sure that you really understand what you're seeing in terms of global leadership, emerging global leaders. Adjoy is right. We will have, and we're working on guests who run big companies, and you will actually meet someone a little bit later in the semester around that, not from Toria, but they're also emerging young leaders. And that's really the focus of the course and what the course outline has talked about. Cassandra is a team leader right now. Now, can you just notice one thing here? She's sick. Please don't take this the wrong way, okay? What I'm about to say, but please listen, okay? There's a term called resilience. We use this a lot today. She could have said, I'm sick today, I'm canceling. She didn't. What she's done is she's using technology, which is great. She's not infecting anybody else. We learned this from COVID. And now we'll have a class and she'll stay as long as she can. She's tough. She has what I would call grit, resilience, okay? So, but again, is Peta there? Peta? I want to make sure because
Yeah, I'm
sometimes
here.
I will sometimes I will say things as your professor that could sound harsh. I don't want it to be. I'm trying to give you good advice. Peta, when I say that you need to be resilient, you need to have grit, and you need to be ready to come to work sometimes, even if you have a cold and you're under the weather, and use technology to do that so no one's affected. Does that sound harsh?
Professor Lon, I grew up with Caribbean parents, right? I don't know if
Yes.
you understand that.
Okay, okay,
And
good. Good.
you could
Okay.
not have an excuse. Not, so Caribbean words now. My mom would say, you're going to school, even if your tripe is hanging out, we're going to tie it in a bag and you're going to show up, right?
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
one of her sayings was, God rest her soul, is greatness shows up no matter what. Greatness does not make excuses. They just show up.
You got it. That's
Right?
thank you, Petra. Thank you. Okay, good. And I want to just punctuate this by saying, and Cassandra's, she will challenge me. This is one thing I love about her too. She's not afraid. That's another thing a leader has. You will stand up to anybody.
Oh, I'm already getting ready for it, Lon.
Okay, so here we go. Here we go. We talk a lot about mental health today. A huge amount of attention is given to it, and I agree it should be. However, when you're in a position of leadership, you can't really use your mental health problems as a reason for why you've decided you can't show up, unless they are serious and you need treatment, and you should get it. But if you fall into a pattern in school of using a mental health day as a way not to do the work, that's dangerous. Well, I'm just putting this out there, okay? Because I've noticed generally that in all the discussions around mental health today, what we don't talk about enough is a good old-fashioned resilience. You got to show up no matter how you're feeling. That's a leader, okay? Cassandra, is that, I don't know, is that fair?
Oh, I'm absolutely going to challenge you on that one, Lon.
Okay, good, good. Let her, I know she will.
So something that Lon knows, but I'm assuming you guys wouldn't know, is I'm actually very open with my mental health struggles. I have diagnosed generalized anxiety. I have diagnosed obsessive compulsive disorder and depression, and I've had those. I'm 31 years old right now, and I have had those since my mid-teens. So I have struggled with my mental health for a very long time. I do take medication to help it. But I think a big part of resilience is also knowing when you do need a break. Um, being a team lead or being in any kind of position that is stressful, the risk of burnout is very high. Um, I know my department right now, we're actually understaffed. So, with my position being to support areas that need support, I have extra responsibility right now that can cause burnout. So, what Lon was saying, with me being sick and still showing up today, I was also out sick for the last 2 days. I didn't log on to my computer at all. I wasn't able to work. And that was an important part of my self care. Part of my resilience is my ability to set that boundary and say, look, I need I need some time. I need some time to recover because I know that I can't do my best work when I am not feeling up to it. And I would rather do things right the first time than do them wrong while I'm sick or while my mental health is suffering, than and have to redo them later. So I have taken mental health days before when it's just overwhelming and I can't get out of bed, or my depression causes physical symptoms such as migraines. Um, so I think it's important to know where that balance is. If I take one day to recover because I know I'm approaching burnout, and burnout is a lot harder to recover from than a slight overwhelm, um, then I think it's important to know when you can take
Yeah.
that day. But if you're falling into a pattern of having to take weeks and weeks at a time, I think that's a bigger issue where you need to look at that self-care. And that has come with years and years of building those boundaries and building that kind of self knowledge. I was the person who would always be like, oh, I have an assignment due tomorrow, I'll be up till 2 in the morning finishing it, when I was younger. And kind of going through that pattern of burnout and then panic and then burnout and then panic has really
Yeah.
taught me now as a working professional what not to do. I made those mistakes when I was younger. I made those mistakes when I was able to make those mistakes and the repercussions weren't as bad, and kind of learning from that how to take care of myself so that I could be resilient at work, was a really important thing.
It's great. Thank you. You're right.
Cassandra,
Well
can I
put.
say anything?
Yeah.
Who wants to jump in? Go ahead.
There is one thing with taking care of yourself, and then there's another thing with using your mental illness as a crutch.
Absolutely. Yeah,
You know,
absolutely. I
it is
agree.
important. Self-care is the best care, but some people definitely use certain things as a crutch. And I work in a sector where I can tell you that, you know.
Well, I'm sorry. I think I lost that last part there. It froze.
No, I said I work in a sector where I can tell you that people use their mental health as a crutch. Taking care of yourself is very important, right? But some
Yeah.
people definitely, yeah.
Yeah,
There's
and
a
I think
difference.
that can be said for a lot of different things, whether it be mental health, whether it be physical health, whether it be, any kind of outside obligations. I think if you are the kind of person who is going to look for a reason, you're going to find a reason. So I think for me, at least, with a lot of my mental health stuff, I had a lot of internalized pressure. Um, so when I was a kid, and this is going into a little bit more of like my personal view, but when I was a kid, I was a gifted kid, which meant I picked up things very quickly and very easily. But the problem was is I had so much internal pressure on myself to do well. My parents never put that pressure on me. They were always very, do your best, and whatever your best is your best. But I put so much pressure on myself that I was causing burnout at a very, very young age. And I wasn't able to kind of set that tone. So I think it's one of those things where like I don't think it's necessarily mental health is the reasoning or is the crutch, but I think it's that if you are the kind of person who's going to look for a reason, you're going to find a reason.
Yeah. Cassandra, thank you as always for being prepared to share in the way that you do. And I want to get to Vicky. I want you to just give a little bit of thought to the wisdom that you have now How has that helped you to be a better team leader? And we'll get to that in a moment. Just I want to give you some time to think about what your answer might be, because I mean, Sandra's wise, and what I said is also before a way to challenge all of you to really think and then respond. And she responded, but she's confident. I'm not expecting you to stand up to the professor, but you can anytime with me, because that's where
I've
we
had
get really good conversations. Okay,
I've
really
had
good
years of
conversations.
sassing Lon back.
Yeah, okay. So, but the wisdom is real. Okay, so Vicky, please go ahead.
Is the mic on?
Yep. Yep.
Um, so with what Cassandra is saying, is it Cassandra? Is that right?
Cassandra, right? I've often said Cassandra. It's Cassandra. You're right.
Cassandra,
Okay.
yes.
Right. Still have trouble. Go ahead.
Um, with what you're saying and stuff, like I get what you're saying, like having burnout and like all that kind of stuff, and like having those mental health days, they can help because like I've never had to take one. I haven't had an issue with my mental health. I have a very strong support system. But my mom, she's bipolar and stuff, and she has a couple of other disabilities on top of it that like also hinder. So sometimes she needs to take a mental health day and she'll need to get sometimes support from counselors and other people to help her cope with everyday life. So she takes a bunch of medication to help her.
Yes.
But sometimes you need that extra guidance to help you be you, and it's healthier to have that with having like that person there to help you hold your hand. Sometimes you need that because it reassures you that you're doing a good job. Yes, there might be hiccups right then and there, but they're there to help you to be the best self, like of you, like the best you.
And when you're the best you,
You
can't you
succeed.
lead better?
Yes.
Aren't you going to be a little
And
more inspiring? You can lift people
lifting
up
up
when
us.
you have that, when you know yourself as
Yeah. I'm
Socrates,
just speaking on
the
behalf of
philosopher.
my mom with her experience of
Right.
being bipolar and stuff. And
Yeah.
my dad, he has severe depression. So he takes a bunch of like medications and stuff to help him, but he also needs to take mental health days. So it's really interesting because like thankfully they haven't had a situation at the same time, but it could happen where my mom could have a really bad bipolar day and my dad could end up having a severe depression day. And my brother and I will just have to cope. And we're like, okay, and stuff. So
That's
the two of
remarkable.
us have to look at each other and we're like, all right, let's build them up. And we have to go and sometimes we have to get help to help them.
You have to lead. You have to be the
Yes, I
you have
have
to be
to
the parent, right? You have to be
sometimes.
the parent.
Yeah.
Let me just stop for a second. I just want to make sure we come back to the
Yeah.
critical thing here, which is we're really drilling down on making things happen today, getting involved, leadership, okay? Real practical insights into good leadership. I want to come back to Cassandra. Cassandra, still, after all these years, it's some mental thing.
As long as you're close, I think she'll
No. I'll come back to Cassandra. I want you to please speak to the idea of first how the wisdom you've gained makes you a better leader, team leader, and I know that you're going to be going further in whatever you do because it's obvious that you will go far in what you do. Um, the second thing is, could you please speak as well to just begin the conversation about gaming and your experience with gaming and how you think some of those tools apply, and then we'll come to Su Young, okay? And then because we've got about 10 or 15 minutes left, but let's make sure that Cassandra speaks to this. Please go ahead.
Yeah. So I think definitely the things that I've learned have really helped me be a better leader. For one, learning to kind of set boundaries and self-manage and know, okay, when I'm approaching a time where I'm like, okay, this is too much. I need to take some stuff off. I need to back burner some things, reprioritize, kind of learning that sort of thing was really important for me. And it's definitely made it a lot easier to kind of manage, especially, as you get farther up in a position, you take on more responsibilities, but you don't have any extra time. So a lot of it was kind of figuring out how to restructure my day and restructure my time. And knowing the difficulties of doing that, especially coming in at a very base, like temporary contract, covering someone's maternity leave, not sure if I'm going to stay, um, knowing kind of what everybody does, knowing what your team is doing is really important to leading a team. We have some things in our area of the college that they are really busy at certain times of the year and very slow other times of the year. So knowing who's doing what and when means I know who's going to need extra support at a certain time, or who is who's got a little bit of extra time and can cover, say, more live chat or more phone calls or more emails, to kind of balance that out within the team. I think the big thing too is just with coming with my own mental health struggles and knowing how it can impact my work and knowing how it can impact how I work. I try to be an open book in my own office, and I try to be somebody that my team can approach on a personal level. Um, as a team lead, I'm in a really unique position where I am not anyone's actual direct on paper supervisor. I'm the one people go to when they have questions or escalations, but I am not the one who is responsible for like disciplining the team or anything like that. So I'm a really good person that people can come to when they have concerns or questions, if I need to bring those up with management, or if someone's saying, hey, I'm having a really, really tough time with this deadline, can you help me? Or my mental health is really bad that day. And I'm like, great, let's go for a walk. We're going to go to Starbucks. We're going to get a coffee. We're going to talk about whatever is bothering you. And we're going to get you to a point where you're okay to get through the day. So we kind of, while I'm a team lead, my team functions very well as at taking care of each other. And I think that's one of my favorite things about where I currently work is that we all take care of each other.
It's lovely. Yeah, you take care. It's a lovely. I mean, what I put up, Cassandra. Can you see on the board? I'm sort of.
Yes. Yeah.
You care about. So we, the team, take care of each other. Wow. And this will really make things happen. Wow. Talk about motivation. If the team cares and the leader cares about the team and sets a mood of caring, don't you think that's motivating? The other thing too, the person in a position of leadership is the one who sets the mood, the culture. For example, the president of the college here, Elaine, or it used to be Don Lavisa, his job was largely to set a culture of innovation. You set the weather. You don't want a hurricane. You want peace, and you want sunshine, and you want the weather to be good. You set the weather. Does that make sense? You set the environment for people to thrive in. That's what I think Cassandra is getting at. And her wisdom has brought her to a point where she cares even more deeply about people, and she's not afraid of the responsibility. When you face yourself, which is the hardest thing to do in life, by the way, I speak from experience, everything else is easier. The responsibility to take care of yourself is the hardest thing. When you can do that and you understand your own needs, you are not afraid of responsibility anywhere, because you have been responsible to dealing with your own mental health needs first. Critical. Is that fair, Cassandra, in terms of kind of explaining a little bit about the meaning going on here?
Yeah, I think that's fair. It's the old adage of, you can't pour from an
You
empty
got
cup.
Can you rewind and say that we didn't get the speaker
Oh,
going? Yeah, go ahead.
I said it's the old adage of you can't pour from an empty cup.
Exactly. So fill up that cup. That's you. Yeah, good cup. Got to make sure Sue Young, because he's been waiting, and then we've got about 5 minutes left. We want to let Cassandra go too. Sue Young, please go ahead. Speak right in like karaoke so we can hear you.
Hello. I hope I don't sound like a HR here, but would you like to share us a difficult situation you've handled as a leader of your team?
Oh, good question. What's the most difficult situation you've handled, Cassandra?
It doesn't have to be the most difficult.
Yeah.
Oh.
Just a difficult situation. Okay, go. Great question. Okay.
Okay, so the one that I have for you, I technically at the time was not the team leader. I was not the program officer. That job didn't actually exist yet. I'm really good at apparently finding jobs at Durham College that don't exist yet. But I was one of the longest standing team members in the department at the time. And what had happened is our manager was on vacation. We were short staffed, and our field placement officer went on a very unexpected leave for about a month and a half in the middle of confirming field placements and getting students out for placements. So it was kind of crazy. Our student advisor was a little bit newer at the time. She was also on a temporary contract, and she needed to learn how to do field placements so we could assist those students. And I was like, okay, my area is a little quiet right now. I have everything that I need to do mostly done. I have some capacity to help with that. And so to help kind of support the rest of my team and prevent other areas from being impacted, I picked up this responsibility that was absolutely no relation to my job, no relation to anybody on my team's job, nothing at all, because it was part of the office and it had to get done. So sometimes it's doing stuff that is outside of your area and outside of your comfort zone and pushing yourself to really pick up things as quickly as you can. A lot of it was me working with the field placement or the student advisor to be like, okay, I'll take care of the spreadsheets because that's the area I'm good at. And I know I'm good at that. And I know you're not a big fan of it. So I'll do that. You call the agencies because you're good at that communication part. And I'll reach out to the students and let them know this is what's going on. And I'm pretty good in DC Connect, so I can do that. And can you reach out to the field placement advisors in these other departments to make sure we have access to these? So a lot of it is just showing up where you're needed. Finding out who is struggling, who needs help, and filling in that gap. A lot of my style of, kind of leading my team is not necessarily leading from behind the front, it's leading from behind. As I pick up what's been dropped or what needs support. So I think the biggest challenge was just kind of pivoting very rapidly. And that's happened quite a few times where people have been out or jobs have changed or software has changed. We have something right now where software is changing, and a staff member is learning how to use that software. So I'm learning it right alongside them so that in case something happens or they're not there, I can pick that area up. So I think that's kind of the biggest thing is just being prepared. And if you're not prepared, being ready to pivot so you can be.
Make sense? You okay? Good. Excellent question. We learn more from difficulty than we do from success. It's better to fail and find a place to fail so you can learn. And that's a good thing to do in school. If you can push yourself and fail, it's okay. Failure is just another step towards success. It's not failure. It's just a learning experience. So, and be ready to pivot. Now we have 5 minutes left, and I want to make sure everybody has had a chance. I think that what we should do, since Cassandra's a little under the weather today, and she's been great to come, is we should let her go. Unless there's anything you would like to add at this point, Cassandra, I think we're going to conclude, and then we're going to spend the last 5 minutes doing a little bit of review. And so does anyone have anything they'd like to ask Cassandra online? Let's see. anything in the live chat. Doesn't look like it. I know Ajoy may want to speak. We'll come back to that. Okay, Vicky, yeah, go ahead, and then we'll let you go, Cassandra. Final point or question.
I have a question for Cassandra.
Yeah, please.
Do you ever feel like sometimes you're like the liaison between like the higher boss and the other like people below you a little bit, but not below you, but that you work with? Like, do you feel like you're the liaison between the two to help facilitate what gets done?
Yeah, absolutely. So when our department was changing, they announced the admin coordinator job and the program officer job at the same time. Um, now the lady who got the admin coordinator job, she's wonderful. She's also worked in our department. She helped train me, but I covered for her while she was on her maternity leave. So when I was in the position and they were still kind of rounding out what the program officer and what the admin coordinator jobs were going to be like, part of it was going to the management meetings and then taking that information and bringing it back to my team and bringing concerns from my team back to program management. And when I had in with the managers, I was able to kind of tell them a lot of stuff they didn't realize was happening. I'm like, hey, this person is severely overburdened. This program's not working. This isn't working. Here's what we need to update. This will make things smooth a lot easier on the surface level of what we need to do. Here's the problems that are being brought to our student facing team to kind of help bridge that gap. So yeah, I would say a lot of my job, especially in the beginning, was definitely being a liaison between those two groups.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
Great. I'm just
And then-
finishing up. Yeah, go ahead.
I
Go
was
ahead,
like,
Cassandra.
while you're typing on, I figure I should maybe mention something about gaming or gamification.
I know you should, but why don't we say that we'll leave that to another time, and just so we don't squeeze in too much, and we'll see how you're doing maybe towards the end of the semester. Maybe you can pop in for a half an hour, or we can find a way. But she's got a lot to say about gaming, and
Yeah.
I've always thought that she can help us understand something about the way gaming can be taken out of entertainment and put into the classroom and into then the planning that we
Class
do
like that, it's cool.
as leaders. But
Well,
Cassandra,
in that case,
unless
Lon.
if there's one or two points you'd like to make quickly, I'll get them in the notes. But then we do need to wrap things up
Yeah,
and let you go.
I was gonna say I'll
ahead.
leave you with one thought then.
Yeah, sure.
For me, I've never outgrown my love of gaming. I joke I was born a gamer. My parents decided when they needed to go to the hospital between my mother's contractions when they couldn't get past the level in Bubble Bobble. So that is a running joke in my family is that we were born gamers. I am very excited by new technologies and by emerging capabilities and things like that. So I look to implement gaming and technology into everything I do. And even in my current job, it's less gaming, but it is, I'm fascinated by AI and what it can do and what you can have it do. So I've actually used AI to take, my very minimal Excel skills. And I've now become one of the top Excel users in the office just from using that to teach myself. So you can use things that are not strictly games and gamify them yourself in order to help teach yourself different things. So I guess the thought I would leave you guys with is whatever you have a passion or an interest in and whatever you find motivating, find a way to incorporate it into what you do and gamify what you do. And things stay a lot more interesting.
Great. Could we have you come back at some point, more briefly to address this in greater detail? on gaming?
Absolutely. And I will
Okay.
put my I'll put my Durham College email in the chat, and then if anybody has any questions that you didn't get to at the class today, you are more than welcome to send me an email, and I'll happily get back to you guys sometime during office hours. I've one of my boundaries is I don't answer emails outside of office hours. That's a good one to
Yes.
set.
Great. Okay.
Lon,
So-
Nathan has his hand raised.
What's that?
Nathan?
Nathan, go ahead, please.
I just want to say, I don't have any questions today, but I'm very interested in hearing you speak about gamification if you come again later in the semester.
Great.
Yeah, absolutely. I would absolutely love to come back.
Okay. Thanks, Cassandra. And can we
No
give her a
problem.
round for just, Thank you so much. Take care of yourself and look forward to seeing you again. Okay.
All right. Bye-bye.
Okay. Bye. Great. All right. Now, Ajoy, if there's something you want to say, we'll have to leave it to another class. We're right up against the. Oh yeah. Okay. So he's probably gone to. Well, it's not bedtime yet in Dhaka, but I hope he's safe. Anyways, you remember what Aftab said. Ajoy actually has some stories to tell about the revolution there too. Okay, so does anybody have anything they'd like to address before we conclude in terms of the discussion posts, the second assignment that's due? I'm starting to mark all of your first assignments, and we'll get the marks back very soon. Want to make sure everybody has a great week, and stay tuned, by the way, to what's unfolding in the United States with Hurricane Milton. It is absolute history. In terms of climate change, what we're witnessing with Hurricane Milton now on the coast of Florida is different. The acceleration of this storm from a tropical storm to a Category 5 hurricane is the fastest acceleration of extreme weather in the history of all weather. What we're witnessing there is, as you know, part of what you're going to be dealing with in the future is these climate catastrophes. In the last hurricane that hit Florida just recently, Helene, 250 people died. In this one, they've evacuated the entire state. The water is expected to rise to about 15 feet or whatever that is in meters. And it's a complex, weird world that you are all entering into in a bigger way. And I hope I can help you to deal with the complexity of this. Okay, so see you next week. All right, thanks everybody.
I have
we're
a
done?
I have a question
Sure, go ahead.
about the Hurricane Milton.
Yes.
Have they evacuated everyone, or is it just people in the line? Because I know my grandmother, one of them, she lives in Sarasota, which is like the center of the path, and she said they were not evacuated. People around them
Well,
and buildings were, but they weren't. So
she may
I
not
don't know
have
if it's
heard
changed.
Nathan, the
Might have
governor.
changed. Sorry.
It may have changed in terms of its severity, but as of yesterday, the governor of Florida said, and the mayor of Tampa, I'm not sure which one said, if you don't evacuate, you die. That is exactly
Okay.
what.
'Cause my news is from
You will
yesterday
die.
morning, so it's not as
What's
recent.
that?
My news is from yesterday morning, so it's not as
Yeah.
recent. So yeah.
But it's really, go ahead, Jeff. A good question. Stay on top of it and understand what's going on. We'll pick this up next week, okay, everybody? We're going to conclude. And so see you then. Have a good week. I'm just going to save this. Come on and make sure we've got the live chat. We have